In 2012, I was a corporate executive at a local defense contractor here in Wichita, Kansas. At the time, I saw an opportunity for us to continue to expand our business. I was the business development officer there. And so I founded Kansas Business Services through the support of the Kansas DBE support program, to get a website built for this new division of the company I was working for, where we would offer business support services to other small businesses like this business that was participating in government and other corporate purchasing or procurement programs. And so I ran that for a while, and 3 years later, spun it off. We were able to get a new owner for that enterprise. That was Wright. She was a fantastic business owner and small business stalwart, and so it was a natural progression to have her take over this company, and we've been running with that team of principals, myself and my partner, since 2015. Donna Wright is my mother. I'm her second eldest child of 6. I actually date the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey back to my grandmother. My grandmother, she was an insurance broker and agent for Ozark National. I'm 7 or 8 years old, and my grandmother used to host these dinner meetings at the Scotch and Sirloin and other places. And she would have us dress up, me and my sister, and she would give us these little pamphlets to hand out to people. And at the time, I really didn't know what it was, but I was getting some of my first exposure to self-employment and entrepreneurship. The things that she taught me as I became an orator, I was in debate and things in high school and started a business when I was in high school. It really, really pressed me and impressed me to move into entrepreneurship. And my mother had the same bug, only she was really into entrepreneurship, helping other small business owners. I always had a close relationship with my mother, but working with her for 2.5, 3 years, we had a really good working relationship, something a lot of parents and children don't have in family-owned or family-run businesses. I got this book somehow. It's like, when they give you Shakespeare for Dummies or something like that, but it was like being an entrepreneur as a kid, and they had these little marketing plans and stuff like that. And I said, okay, I can get with it. And I put together a little business plan that's marketed out, put it together in the book. I just say, okay, I can do this. I talked to my dad. I said, I want to start this little business. I want to start lawn care business. And my dad hauled me around for that summer to different church members and people's houses, people calling, and he's hauling me, helping get the gas. And that was my first business I started, I think. And the one thing that I can say that I appreciate about Wichita as an entrepreneur community is that it is close-knit. When I finished working some contract work for the federal government, and I had already been, past my time with the Minority Business Development Council, one of those minority businesses had reached out to Donna, my mother, and asked what I was doing. She's like, I think he's finishing a contract. And I got the opportunity to work for what I believe is one of the greatest businessmen of the city is Curtis Witten of Ventec Enterprise. And so in 2010, I began working for him in the federal government business. Those type of influences, other men in business, other black men in business, family men, men that also believed in education. They both were athletes. So working at Ventec, I was doing business development in an SBA program known as the 8A program. It's for small disadvantaged businesses, usually social or economic disadvantage. These programs last for a certain amount of time, and they just shrink the pool of people you have to compete against. I'm a technical writer by trade, so writing proposals, doing business development was something that was easy for me. I'd been and started a couple of businesses now since that time. I had a lot of previous business experience in doing a lot of loan originations, so we had a package of services to sell other local and national small businesses, and that's when we founded Kansas Business Services. So on the most basic broad level, nothing is different. In Wichita or New York City or Chicago or LA, there are still a limited amount of resources, and there are still gaps in dissemination of information between groups of business owners. A lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of operators are the owners themselves, and they're self-employed, and they don't have time to do a lot of things that it takes to build a significant and prospering, sustainable system, which is what business should be. Not just owning a job, but creating a system by which you can step away and it can still run if that's the type of business you want to run. I do want to say that Wichita, I believe, has one of the best entrepreneur ecosystems in the country. I absolutely believe that. And if anybody doesn't believe that, I just name things like Rent-A-Center, Pizza Hut, Coke, Cargill, Boeing or Stearman, anything in aerospace. This city is known in this country, around this world, for its entrepreneur spirit and its endeavors. So we have a lot of things that other places don't have, such as support networks, such as Network Kansas, that does a lot when it comes to funding and pulling together resources of other ecosystem builders. Unfortunately, I don't think that access to capital is the biggest issue facing any entrepreneurs, or especially entrepreneurs who are non-white business owners. I think knowledge is the biggest deficit, and I think true capability and capacity is another thing. And that includes the ability to know how to read business and know how to pivot in business. What I see a lot in minority communities, a lot of our businesses are in service sector and perhaps are more low barrier to entry businesses. And I get that because they're low cost. It's easier to get in. A couple of those I'll mention would be like beautification services or janitorial services or something along those lines. But the capital that's available in the market is not for these particular types of businesses. And while there's all this money being thrown towards the new age of Web 2.0 or 3.0 and coding and this and that, the innovation in our communities hasn't seemed to continue to progress to where banks and other lending institutions are willing to give the money because there's so much more upside potential. I'm not saying there aren't other factors, but money is out there. We get money to people on a regular basis. I sit on a number of boards locally that dispense supplemental financing through urban e-communities, Network Kansas, the city of Wichita, Propel Loan. Access to capital is there, but are the businesses in the right place to be able to even deal with the burden of that capital? Because there's no free money, it's all a loan. So can I pay the money back, the principal plus the interest? And that's where the knowledge deficit comes in. So to ask them to go to a bank and talk numbers is two different languages. They understand their customer base. They understand that they have a market for a product or a service that they can sell, but how to scale that and how to give the bank back their money is a conversation they don't know how to have. When you're an entrepreneur and you feel like it's your passion, it's your purpose, it's a lot to feel like you fail. Not just yourself, but others, because if you ask what the biggest success is, I used to tell people when they ask what I do, I said, I make millionaires. And people were like, what? I'm like, that's what I do, I make millionaires. You want to ask what I literally do? I said, literally, it's what we do. I mean, if you're a business owner and you've got equity in the company, when we raise the revenue of your company X amount of percent, or you save so much money in your bottom line, we're creating that much more equity for you. We make millionaires. It's not a question. I'm here to grow people. And learning who you are and what you're good at, and learning how to turn that into passion, and learning how to manage your passion properly are some of the things that I think any entrepreneur is gonna have to dig deep and find, and that's not in any book. I discourage more people from entrepreneurship than I do tell them to go do it, because it's not made for everybody. My dad said this famously, there's three types of people in this world, and there's variations of this. He said there are people who dig ditches, people who design ditches, and people who own ditches. You need every last one of them in this world. One thing his family said to me is like, he said, son, you're no better than anybody, but you're not less than anybody else. And he said, your people, the people who look like you, have had an experience in this country where they've done a lot of ditch digging. And they progressed and have done a lot of designing ditches. He said, we need more people like us to want to own a ditch, to believe they can own the ditch, that they can pay the person that's designed, to pay the person that's digging. And I think that people are sold so much on the end result, they forget that this is process. A business is not overnight. I don't care what you see on TikTok or what you see on Instagram. This is your life. And it's serious, and it will take life from you. And it will give life to you also.